Hello, my dear friends and couples out there. It is my privilege, and I always consider it an honor to be in your midst. This is Marriage Without Tears channel, and I remain yours sincerely, Felix Okeke, your counselor and coach. Today we are going to be discussing an issue that is of very vital importance to every married couple. And what is that issue? How to build intimacy in a marriage relationship. Many couples do think that when we talk about intimacy, we are simply talking about sex, but that's not always true. Certainly you can have sex with someone without being intimate. What about the one-night stands? What about the commercial sex workers that have sex with their clients? They are never intimate. To them, it's simply a business transaction. So you can have sex with someone without being intimate. So intimacy goes far beyond sex. It's something far deeper. And before we go on, I would like you to look at that red button by my side. Please subscribe to our channel. It's a great channel. If you actually want to build a marriage that is founded on a solid rock, this is a place to be. We teach, we counsel, we do a whole lot of things. And I want you to keep faith with this channel. Now, coming back to our topic today, how to build intimacy in a marriage relationship. What is intimacy? Intimacy simply means a sense of oneness, a sense of belonging, a one-to-one connection with one another. Intimacy simply means the meeting of minds. Intimacy means the capacity to open up to one another, to know one another at a deeper level. Intimacy means the capacity to make mistakes and not be beaten down because of the mistakes that we make. Intimacy means the capacity to make mistakes and, of course, find forgiveness with grace. Intimacy simply means being open to one another, accepting one another, loving one another, appreciating our weaknesses and appreciating our strengths. Intimacy simply means being free with one another to the level whereby we can discuss anything, feel anything, and open up to one another in any way possible. That is what we mean by intimacy. When we are intimate with one another, we can afford to be vulnerable. We can afford to make mistakes and be forgiving. When we are intimate with one another, we can afford to express ourselves without inhibitions, without limitations. When we are intimate with one another, we can afford to open up without being intimidated or overrun. We can afford to do whatever we can do to please one another. That is what intimacy means. Like I said some time ago, quality marriages don't drop from the sky. It comes from two couples who have committed themselves to a relationship and are willing to give it all it takes to make it workable. And when you decide to be intimate with your spouse, that is such a commitment we are talking about. I want you to be committed today to live a life that is open, a life that is filled with grace. That is what intimacy does to a marriage. Now, how do you build intimacy? Because that is the subject of our discussion today. How do you build intimacy? I want to divide this particular lesson into 4 areas. What are the 4 areas? We have what we call emotional intimacy. We have what we call mental intimacy. We have what we call spiritual intimacy. We have what we call physical intimacy. By the time we run on it, by the time we look at it one by one, we'll be able to appreciate the depth of this very particular topic. So let me start with emotional intimacy. So what is emotional intimacy? Emotional intimacy simply means the capacity to open up completely to your spouse. Everything that you feel, no pretenses, no hiding of feelings, just the capacity to open up totally. If you're feeling angry or bitter about anything, you must be able to voice out what the issue is. You must be able to explain in a loving manner. Don't add pain to yourself and don't put undue pressure on the relationship. If you are also feeling joyful, or possibly you have received a gift from your spouse, you have to be thankful, you have to be grateful, you have to rejoice. In times and seasons of rejoicing, rejoice. If there is anything that is happening within your home that needs to be appreciated, appreciate. If you have to appreciate your spouse for being the best he or she is, appreciate. The capacity to be thankful, that is what it means to be emotionally intimate with your spouse. Don't hide any feeling. Don't sweep anything under the carpet. If you are someone that recoils in your shell anytime there is an argument or anytime there is a disagreement, you cannot achieve emotional intimacy with your spouse. So I want you to correct that now as you are listening to me. Open up your hearts. Spouses are meant to open up to one another. Like I said earlier, it is the meeting of minds. So be emotionally intimate with your spouse. Let your spouse be able to know your stand at any given time. Whether you are happy, whether you are sad, be able to open up. Whether you are thankful, whether you are disappointed, be able to open up. The capacity to open up, please do so. It makes all the difference in any marital situation. And then the second type of intimacy is what I call mental intimacy. Mental intimacy. This is the place where you discover things that spice up the relationship mentally. What are the activities you would enjoy doing? Do you enjoy any sporting activity like swimming, like basketball, volleyball, soccer, any kind of activity? I've seen couples that play chess for hours. I've seen couples that play Ludo games for hours. And it makes all the bonding, because it brings intimacy, something that makes both of you to laugh and expect joyfully. You may also love to be attending seminars or conferences that edify you as a couple. You may also love reading together or reading to one another. You may love music. You may love watching movies. Whatever activity that you both enjoy to do as a couple, please choose one or two or a couple of them and invest your spare time onto it. It makes all the difference in a marriage. Something that spices you up mentally. Something that challenges you up, challenges both of you mentally. You are not meant to be competing with one another, but a kind of challenge that is more complementary, if you understand what I mean. So this is what I mean by mental intimacy. Then, of course, we can also look at spiritual intimacy. What do we mean by spiritual intimacy? Having a common understanding of God as a couple and using the principles of heaven to guide your relationship. You can do so by choosing times together, times of prayer, times of fasting. As a couple, when you wake up in the morning, you can spend an hour praying, or maybe before bedtime, you can also spend an hour praying before bedtime. A couple that prays together stays together. If you have the same understanding of God and you are able to use the principles that are established by God to run your relationship, you achieve spiritual intimacy. As a matter of fact, you need to also be worshiping in the same church, in the same denomination, seeking spiritual edification and teachings from the same spiritual master. So this situation of having couples split up in different denominations is not ideal for any relationship. If a couple must achieve spiritual intimacy, then of course they must be receiving spiritual instructions from the same place. And also, in terms of going for service, I have seen couples that because there is a 6 o'clock mass or 6 o'clock service and a 9 o'clock one, you discover the man going for the 6 o'clock one and the woman going for the 9 o'clock. No, it doesn't make for intimacy. As a couple, you have to identify a particular service period that is okay, a particular service period that is ideal for both of you. Or if you have gotten the privilege of having a family, a particular service time that all the family will attend together. You attend services together. You sit in the same place together. And at the end of service, you drive home together. That is what builds intimacy, spiritual intimacy in a union. And of course, if there comes a time when you need to fast, for instance, it should not be only the man or the woman fasting. Fasting should be a joint exercise. I've seen couples where the man is busy fasting and doing all manner of spiritual exercises, and the woman is busy eating rice and chicken. It's not good for a relationship. As a couple, learn how to pray together, fast together, seek the face of God together, study the scriptures together. You have to identify particular times of the week, possibly on a Saturday or on a Wednesday evening, on a Sunday evening, that you can sit back together and study the scripture together. What you don't understand, you can ask one another. And as you do that, you discover that spiritually you grow as a team, you grow as one. That is what we mean by spiritual intimacy in marriage. You can achieve that. If you make up your mind, you can actually achieve that. And then we come finally to the other one, physical intimacy. Sex is important, really, but like I said earlier, it goes beyond sex. Physical intimacy means knowing your spouse at a deeper level, especially her physical needs or his physical needs, and making up your mind to meet the demands of his physical needs. That is what it means to have physical intimacy. It can mean touching one another. It can mean playing with one another outside of sex. Of course, a couple can play games together. They can play with one another. They can laugh. They can run over the whole house. They can be involved in all manner of play that is not actually sex. Of course, you can spend leisure times together, strolling together, walk together within your neighborhood, go to some neighbors, minister to some neighbors, go around, laugh together. That is how you create intimacy. Let me also point out a few areas also that you need to work on right now. If you are a couple, you don't need to share separate bedrooms. I have said this often and on in some of my teachings. No matter how much God has blessed you financially, a couple is not meant to have separate bedrooms. You are meant to be sleeping in the same bed together. I have seen grievances, I have seen scores settled at the bedroom. I have seen couples that were angry with one another before they went to bed, but after a few bodily frictions, they ended up making love and coming out laughing the next morning. I have seen so many things happen in the bedroom. So you are not meant to have different bedrooms. Please correct that anomaly now. If you are having different bedrooms, please come together as one. Stay in the same bedroom. Enjoy one another's breath. It makes all the difference. Secondly, you also need to begin right now. If you were not doing it before, this is an area that brings a lot of intimacy between married couples. And what is that area? Learn to take your bath together. Learn to take your bath together. If you cannot do it in the morning, possibly because you are rushing to work, you can afford to do it later in the evening when you come back from work. There is something that happens when a couple takes their bath together. A lot of love emotions come into play. At the moment you are scrubbing your back and she's scrubbing yours, and you are helping her to rub soap here and there, and she's helping you, a lot of emotions come to play. Some certain things some certain feelings of ugliness, some certain feelings of you may be having, some certain bitternesses are washed away. And if in the process of taking your bath together, you discover that you feel like making love, why don't you do it? It's nobody's business. Make your love in the bedroom. Let it be spontaneous. It helps the relationship to flourish. And if you can't do it, like I said, in the morning, learn to do it later in the day. Couples that take their baths together consistently never bicker over one another. They never actually quarrel. You see their marriage running very smoothly. Is an area which you must try and practice from now henceforth. And of course, the next area I want to point out in case of physical intimacy is the capacity to take your meals together as a couple. I have seen people's marriages become firmer, become stronger, because at each point in time they eat together. If you cannot take your breakfast together because you are rushing to work, possibly you can invite your spouse to lunch. After all, you have been doing that while you were courting. Why did you suddenly stop because you are now married? You can invite her over for lunch. And if perhaps you cannot take lunch together as well, please rush home at the end of every day and come and take your dinner together with your spouse. And possibly, if God has given you the grace of having children, learn also to have your children seated at the table. There's no greater joy than a man and his wife and his children sitting together at table taking their dinner together. it makes all the difference. It brings joy to any relationship. Sometimes it makes you appreciate what God has done. Because if you don't live in appreciation, if you don't have a spirit of thanksgiving, appreciating God for what he has done in your family and in your life, that the tendency that you may never actually have a wonderful marriage. So I want you to open up your mind to one another at the dinner table. And I will also look at men who sometimes they fill their stomach with a lot of food during lunch hour, and then they come back to the house. Their wives has finished preparing a very sumptuous meal and waiting for the husband, and then the man comes into the house, pick one or two pieces of meat, drink a glass of juice, and rush to the bedroom. It's not ideal. If you have not taken your meal with her in the morning and you have not done so at lunchtime, please make room for the dinner. Let the dinner time be a wonderful moment with you and the rest of the family. It makes for physical intimacy to blossom. And of course, I will not end without saying, please do have quality sex. If you meet a couple that is having sex continually or consistently, there's a tendency for them to live in joyfulness all along, all the time. Sex, especially good quality sex, can be likened to oil in a machine. When there is enough oil in the machine works very smoothly. When a couple is always having sex, there's the tendency for the relationship to always work smoothly. And I pray for that in your own relationship. Please, I think we have said so much on this very particular edition of Marriage Without Tears. But before you get out of this channel, please go to that button by my side and hit the subscription button. I want you to keep faith with this very particular channel. This is only about the 12th video. I tell you, we are aiming to get up to a 2,000 video. And I don't want you to miss it. I don't want you to miss any one of them, because it's going to be bumper after bumper after bumper editions. So you are blessed in the name that is above every other name, Jesus Christ, Son of the living God. I appreciate you, and I give God grace for bringing you before us, before me. You are blessed. Thank you very much.